Hello, and welcome to another episode of DeepSeededGeek. My name is Jason, and I am the host for this show, and I'm feeling a little bit in the festive mood today, so I thought I'd change the scenery. That, and the green screen decided to rip itself out of the drywall. But that's okay. We're in the festive spirit. As you can see, I've amassed a roaring fake fire, and I've got hot chocolate, and a selection of Christmas accoutrements, such as something red, something green, and of course, that ever-necessary addition to Christmas, a portal gun. But enough about that, and let's not dwell on the green screen that is such a bitch today. Let's get on to the show. Alright, so the first bit of news that's on the gaming docket today is not really gaming news, but more comic book movie news, alright? It was announced that they've cast the role of Wonder Woman in the latest Batman vs. Superman movie. I don't know how I feel about this. I saw who they cast, and I get it. She's got a face like a Wonder Woman kind of thing, but they attached a clip to show off her acting skills, and I gotta say, I don't know how much acting was done in a Fast and Furious movie. She's got a pretty face, like I said, so maybe they're betting that the face will just sell it, but this clip that I saw had her talking to some dude, talking about how she's like some ex-secret agent, whatever, and then the dude is talking about, oh, I have a fetish with my mouth, and then she goes scampering off, and she undoes a towel, revealing herself in a bikini. And I saw that, and I went, that is not Wonder Woman. This girl is a friggin' toothpick. A stiff breeze could break her in half. That is not Wonder Woman. And then I sat back, and I thought, what the hell is Wonder Woman doing in this movie anyway? Like, this ticks me off, okay? They're trying to reboot a Superman movie by bringing in other heroes. How does that establish a Superman movie? This is turning out to be a Justice League movie. Hopefully, they'll just rename it Justice League at this point, because they're trying to obviously be an Avengers kind of movie. They've stated in the past that they want to bring all their characters. Everybody's on the Avengers bandwagon, where it's like, we want to do all this, like, we'll do it with Star Wars, we'll do it with whoever else, you know, Avengers, X-Men, we're going to bring everybody in. And this is just like, it's so painful, because Wonder Woman is such a great character in the comics that she deserves her own movie. And Amy Adams was questioned about it, and she said something brilliant. She said, well, I hope they do something interesting with it, where it's not just going to be me and Wonder Woman fighting against each other for the affections of Superman. Hopefully it's more of like, hey, we're two strong women, and let's combine our, you know, womanliness, whatever, not, excuse me, shouldn't say womanliness, that's a whole nother movie. We should combine our efforts, there it is, and work together to better everyone on Earth. But I don't know. I'm just not too impressed that Wonder Woman is going to be in it. It's no offense to the actress. I'm sure she could bulk up and everything like that, and she could be a kick-ass Amazon warrior. I'm just annoyed that they went this route instead of giving Wonder Woman her due. Anyway, let's move along. The next one up is we got our first look at the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer. And I was talking to a coworker of mine yesterday about this, and I'm on the fence. I love Spider-Man. We agreed he's one of our favorite heroes. Most of the movies, except for Spider-Man 3, were amazing. See? And the sequel should just be more of the good stuff. Electro, from what I saw from the trailer, could possibly be done really well. I took away from it, like, it seemed like Electro was maybe a lab experiment gone wrong that they hid away and now he's escaped. I think that's cool. I love that kind of concept, because then he could just be like a Joker and set loose on the world. Rhino, they went with the mechanical Rhino. Good choice. Just have to sit back and see if they're really going to do something creative with him as well. And then there's flashes of all these villains that might be in the background. There was some dude on a hoverboard that made me think Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn are in the movie. But it's just up in the air as to who's actually pulling the strings and who's on that glider. Also, you'll see little snippets of mechanical octopus arms. That's octopus arms, if you didn't know. And they look very similar to vulture wings that were in the next scene over. So it looks like they're going to be building up to Sinister Six, which, if you don't know who that is, it's this group of 6 villains who team up to go against Spider-Man. And that would be all kinds of awesome if they did that on film. So that's exciting, but at the same time, it feels like they're going down the path of Spider-Man 3, where it's like too many villains at once right now. Maybe you should build these guys up a bit before you pull like multiple villains. And yeah, Lizard was just... The action scenes were great from Amazing Spider-Man, but the Lizard himself as a character really wasn't well done for the movie. Just my opinion. But yeah, my coworker said I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to go that far as well. And somebody's got to change their brakes outside because that's really screechy. Next on the movie front was just last night. I caught it before I left work. That is awesome. Was the latest news. We got a look at Godzilla, the remake by, I believe it's the director who did Chronicle. He's doing a Godzilla remake. And I know what you're thinking, Godzilla, big man in a green lizard suit, or that awful Matthew Broderick piece of crap. But 1 minute into this thing, you are sold, okay? It seems like it's a real world setting, and this unbelievable catastrophic event happens where there is Godzilla in our life. And how would the world actually react to it? And they've got an A-list cast. They've got Juliette Binoche. They've got Bryan Cranston. Okay, Walt himself is in this movie. And, oh shoot, what is the guy's name? He was in that amazing George Clooney movie, Good Night and Good Luck. Anyway, that dude. So, stellar cast all around is in this thing. And once you get a look or a glimpse at Godzilla, it's just fanboy goodness. It's like, yes! So I cannot wait for May 2014. So you can go on YouTube, type in Godzilla, and just love it. Love it. It is so awesome. Next on the list is a bit of a news from modders out there on the PC. Someone has come up with the brilliant idea to mod Morrowind, or is it Skyrim? Anyway, you'll understand. You are now able to play, or at least they're in the process of creating, a mod where it takes Morrowind and redoes it with the Skyrim game engine. Okay, so Skyrim graphics, Skyrim look and everything like that, but the land of Morrowind. So I don't know if that's Skyrim's engine and they just recreated the map of Morrowind, or if it's Morrowind and you just made it up with prettier graphics. Either way, it's going to be a free mod. How can you complain about that? That sounds just amazing. A bit of crazy news, actually. There was an article that I read recently regarding Xbox. I know, I can't help it. Microsoft, they keep messing things up, and I just have a duty to report this kind of stuff. It was announced that there was an independent developer who said that they wanted to make their game multi-platform, but the problem was that they started development on systems like PlayStation 4, Vita, and Wii U already, and it wasn't until later into their development that Xbox One turned around their policies on indies and they wanted to support them more, that they said, oh, okay, we'll start developing it for you, but it might be a little bit later than the counterparts. Microsoft came back and said, well, no, you can't be on our system unless we're day one on par with every other system. So, Microsoft, the guys who go out of their way to make sure that they can grab all these kind of exclusive things, they're fine with being ahead of everybody or on the same day as everybody. But if you had the balls to go onto a competitor before you go onto our console, screw you, you can't be on our console anymore. That's essentially what they're saying. That is grade A bullshit right there, okay? I just can't fathom that. If everybody said that, like, oh. Anyway, go read the article yourself. Maybe you pick up on something. Maybe there's a clause in the Xbox forums that I'm not understanding. But for this developer to have that kind of problem, you know, it's a shame for gamers especially. Because what if the day came around where that game company became multi-platform, okay? They can never release some of their amazing titles that were on the PlayStation 3 onto Xbox Marketplace. Because, oh, you went the other way, and I know we didn't support you before, but screw you, we're not supporting you now because you chose to go ahead and publish your game without considering us that never had the indie thing to begin with. Ridiculous. Anyway. All sorts of great news just to complain about today. Woo, I'm on a roll. And this is going to start off a whole new topic here. The VGA Awards came and went on Friday, I believe. And I'm not such a big fan of the VGA show itself. I mean, a lot of people were the same way. That's why they kind of changed it up. What I am excited for are all the video game announcements that happen at these award shows. And first up was we got a look at Tom Clancy's The Division again, but this time focusing more on what their next-gen engine can do. And they showed day-night cycles and how the environment changes depending on that. Not just shadows and everything, but weather patterns, okay? So if it's nighttime and there's a snowstorm happening, okay, it will cover all the cars and the streets and everything. But once that sun comes up, it will gradually melt everything away. That is awesome, okay? Just the weather patterns and how they kind of interact with the environment itself, that was incredible. And then they showed details, and what I loved from the original trailer that I saw from The Division was how accurate and how physics reacts to impact, okay? Meaning, when somebody was on a roof shooting down at your cover behind a car, you would see the bullets fly through the windows, and the windows would shatter where it connected, or there would be bullet holes precisely in the car. You know, it was so precise, the amount of detail they put into this thing, that it's just jaw-dropping. And this trailer is just exploring all that kind of stuff. So it just, and this is year one for next gen. Imagine what they'll be able to do like 3 years into the console cycle where everybody's got a good grasp of the technology. It's just, it makes the imagination just rage. Okay, it's awesome. Next up was a new look at The Witcher 3 Witch Hunt. And this trailer, going on the heels of Tom Clancy The Division, shows off just how amazing next-gen graphics are going to be. Like, the headline for where I found this trailer was perfect. They said, "This is possible on a next-gen?" Holy crap, it looks like Lord of the Rings. It looks like Lord of the Rings. The fire looks real. The characters that come out of the woodwork, they look amazing. And then you've got the crazy gameplay. I can't believe that's in-game footage. It's just incredible. So 2 hits for amazing things to come in next gen right there. And then some of the good stuff happened. So it was a few episodes back where I was talking about that there were rumors that Telltale Games, let's get that right, was going to be developing a Game of Thrones episodic content kind of thing, like they do. And I kind of speculated, like, well, yeah, this is, rumor right now. And then everybody was going off, oh, what kind of game could it be, And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if Telltale came out and just said, you know what, here's our new game, and it's not Game of Thrones. That, we just go crazy with our rumor mill kind of stuff. Lo and behold, Telltale reveals their new game, and it's not a Game of Thrones game. It is, in fact, a Borderlands game. I know, I said, what the fuck, too, But it sounds cool. And when they showed I was kind of, when I read the article, I was kind of like, what? Because it's like, Telltale is taking on an IP that is so far beyond them, you know? And I thought, well, why would Borderlands be okay with giving the reins to one of their most successful franchises to somebody else? But then I saw the trailer, and I thought, oh my god, the visual style of Borderlands fits so perfectly with Telltale Games. And yeah, it won't be a in-depth RPG, it'll be a story. And from what I understand, I still have yet to play Borderlands. I'm so embarrassed by that. But from what I understand, Borderlands has a deep enough story that you can do this kind of Telltale thing and still have amazing action sequences and everything like Telltale does, and flesh out really amazing characters. And then after seeing the trailer, I was like, oh my god, yeah, that's a brilliant fit, and what a brilliant idea for two great studios to come together on a project. I thought, that is fantastic. I wish more studios were open to doing that kind of thing, because I think it would breathe new life into dying franchises that we love, and maybe explore different opportunities for AAA franchises like your Borderlands, you know? So that's great. But the news didn't stop there. Because lo and behold, Telltale is doing a Game of Thrones game! Yay! That's my Muppet! Yay! So yeah, the potential for that is gonna be out of this world. You know, I recently read that HBO is behind it, so more than likely it will involve the miniseries world, okay? Or miniseries, it's not a miniseries, the show's world. Which is great because, I mean, they tread very closely to the books. So if they take sources from the books, if they take it right out of the movies, if you play characters, movies, the TV show, if you play as characters from the show or the books, it's just, there's so much potential there, and there's so many different avenues you can go down. It's just win-win for everybody. And apparently it's not just going to be a one-off. They've already said, no, this is going to be a multi-game deal, okay? Not just episodes, okay? But like Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, just like The Walking Dead is Season 1, Season 2 for Telltale right now. So that's just all kinds of goodness. One of my favorite developers currently is making amazing stuff. They've got Fables going on, they've got The Walking Dead, they've got Borderlands, which is going to be all kinds of banana pancakes awesome, and they've got Game of Thrones. Oh my god, I love you, Telltale Games. And that's all coming out in 2014. Amazing. Next up was the last trailer. This one probably blew my mind more than anything else. There was a game from the developers who made Joe Danger. If you've played that, it kind of looks like a Pixar platformer motorcycle stunt race kind of thing, if that's a category we can talk about. But they've announced their next game, which is called No Man's Sky. And it's just a little brief demo, almost like a tech demo of what is going to be possible in this game. And it starts off, you're underwater, and there's the sea, and fish swimming around and everything. You come up for air, and you see kind of like a desert island, like the shore of an island, okay? And that's exploratory too. You walk over, and you find your spaceship. You get in your spaceship, you go over, flying over across the land that you were on, and you go up to the skies where there is a massive space battalion, okay? Bunch of spaceships up there. You go up there, and it clips to things like, hey, maybe there's a space battle going on. Hey, you can go to this different star system. Hey, you can land on this different planet. Hey, you can hyper jump across the place. And the whole idea is not so much a shooter or like a space dog kind of thing, but it's all exploratory. You can go to different planets, in different solar systems, in different galaxies, in different universes, and explore everything. That is mind-joggling. Like, holy crap, the potential for this game is unreal, okay? And I've shown the trailer to a few of my coworkers and said, dude, you gotta check this out. And I know this might not be exactly their kind of game, but once they see this thing, holy crap. Any, like, snobbery we have about graphics, any snobbery we have about indie games has been laid aside. Just the potential for this game has captured everybody's imagination. And I can't wish these guys any more luck in the world, because I want to see this thing succeed. And damn straight, as soon as it's available, day one purchase right here. Probably on all the systems. I'll buy it 1,000,000 times. I'll even gift it on DeepSeededGeek. I think this game will be amazing. And that's the gaming news for this week, so let's move on to what I've been playing with my hands. Oh, wait. So this last week had me kind of flip-flopping with a lot of the games that I've been playing. I just couldn't settle on something that I wanted to dive right into. The first game I played was episode 1 of The Wolf Among Us, which was awesome. Okay, I am a huge fan of the Fables comic books, and to see that world come to life in a video game, you couldn't have picked a better studio than Telltale to do that game. And it's cool because it's such a film noir detective story, and I just eat that kind of stuff up. I love it. Everything about it, even the voice actors, they were perfectly cast. All the little nods to things that are in the video, in the comic books was just brilliant. But I don't want to get into too much detail about the game itself and my overall thoughts, because it is just the first episode, and it'll probably be next year, this time, that we'll see the game actually be finished. So, as episodes come out, I'll give you updates that, yeah, I've been playing it, or I have played it, what I think, going up to that point, and then we'll talk about what my final thoughts are. So, that was about a 2-hour game, and I actually went back and forth because I want to change some of my decisions, like you do, just so I can get the game to where I wanted it to end up. And I don't regret a minute of it. It was so much fun. But anyway, it was a brief 2-hour kind of game, and there's more to come on that. The next game I went to was, I was feeling like I wanted a bit more of an RPG, a big title to dive into. And I'd been reading articles about Link Between Worlds and Ocarina of Time on 3DS, Wind Waker, of course, and I've been jonesing for kind of the next Zelda. And I realized, oh shit, I haven't even played Twilight Princess yet. So there we go. I popped Twilight Princess in, and the first hour didn't grab me. And I really needed something to click with me right away, you know? All I was doing in the game was just kind of learning about the basic controls, helping to herd some goats into a farm thing, and then I went into the tiny village at the beginning, and I was searching around for a fishing rod to get from somebody, and I just kind of got a little frustrated. I was like, oh, I'm not really feeling this now. So it got turned off. I'll go back to it. I know I will. I love Zelda too much now to just put it aside, and probably one of the better Zelda titles out there. But I just wasn't feeling it. So I moved on, and I popped in Xenoblade Chronicles, because I knew I wanted to do something kind of RPG-ish, and I've heard amazing things about this game, and I've just put it aside for the longest time, mostly because it's such an epically long game. The intro hooked me. It's a brilliant concept where two titans were fighting each other, and they kind of did a killing blow. Now they're frozen in time in their death state, and then an entire civilization has emerged on top of their remaining corpses, which is very cool as a setting and a backdrop. And as I was playing through the initial gameplay, I was stunned at how amazing it felt to be in this kind of JRPG battle structure, where it's like you can select if you want to do magic, special attacks, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And the brilliant new innovation is that they finally created a game where instead of just 3 in front of the one villain or whatever, and you just send attacks and they send attacks back and forth, you can go around them. Yay! You can move while you're doing all these crazy attacks. So you can come up and sneak behind them and do a back attack, which is something I've been wanting to do in every Final Fantasy game since they started making them. And once my brain kind of got down on that Final Fantasy path, I was like, man, I really want to play another Final Fantasy game. So I turned Xenoblade Chronicles off, and I booted up Final Fantasy VII. Because, well, truth be told, I did a little bit of research into the Final Fantasy games, and I found that there was this program that you can use to pretty much, it's like a game genie for Final Fantasy VII called Black Chocobo, where you can max all your stats, get all your upgrades and everything like that, and then start playing the game from scratch. And I thought that was great, because as much as I love the strategy that goes along with a JRPG, The one thing that never really hooked me on Final Fantasy VII was the storyline. And I thought, well, this would be a cool way to just not really concentrate on the gameplay stuff and really dive into the storyline and get to it as quickly as possible. So that's all well and good. I started doing that, and I was having a good time. It was really cool that I could max all my stats, and just like one hit kill was like 999999999 on like, what was it, a flame ball, you know, like just, it was ridiculous how overpowered I was. But I was going to get through the story pretty quickly there, so that was cool. But once I turned the game off and came back to it, I loaded up Steam, and there it was. The holy grail of my video game library was now available on Steam. Final Fantasy VIII, my favorite game of ever, is now available on PC in an HD remake kind of thing. Not a remake, but HD upgrade. And my first reaction was the obvious one. It was, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what, oh my god, what? And before I knew it, my hands were just doing their own thing, and I had bought it, and it was uploaded, and I was about to press play, and I was like, what, where did the last 10 minutes of my life go? I was too excited. So that is what I've been just engrossed, just eating it all up. I have just been loving it. I am back in Final Fantasy VIII, but it's not perfect. Let me say this. The graphics are done very well, to the point where the last time I played a Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy VIII specifically, on my TV, it was the old PlayStation hooked up to an HD TV, which makes every little pixel stand out with alarming clarity, and everything just looks muddled. So they've kind of smoothed over all of the pixelated kind of things so that you can actually see their faces when they're walking towards you. The actions are very smooth. Everything looks beautiful, okay? The problem with the graphics is when you step out into the map world, so to speak. Once you get out of Garden for the first time and you go around to see Ifrit's cave, everything looks like it's just flattened. You know what I mean? I remember the world on the original PlayStation. Yeah, it did look pixelated, but it still looked detailed. Everything just looks smudged, just to have it there, you know? So that's not too exciting, but it's not that important either, you know? You remember the world, it does its job to get you around. The big no-no in the game is that for some odd reason, they didn't use the original soundtrack. What they replaced it with was like akin to a Casio keyboard version of the Final Fantasy score. So it's very MIDI, very electronic, and it replaces the orchestral score that usually is in the video game. So that's a very odd choice to go with. I mean, hopefully, you know, there's going to be some modders out there that will take things like, there was a brilliant album that came out for Final Fantasy VIII where I think it was called Fithos Lusek, blah, 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 you know, whatever the words are. And it was a fully orchestrated version of all the Final Fantasy music. So hopefully there's a modder out there that will take all those tracks and clip it into file frames that are usable within the game. And then you can just mod it and have that beautiful, beautiful, full orchestrated score in the background of the game. So that's my only complaint about the game. Other than that, I am loving going back through all the characters. It's amazing how much I retain, like, oh yeah, this is where the secret scan point is, and you can get that. Oh yeah, and you can get Cure over here. And if I scan this guy and absorb the magicka from them, they'll have this GF that I want. It's incredible how much I remember. And just instinct. Every time my character goes to swipe with his gunblade, it's just reflex that I hit the trigger to kind of do the gunblade extra where you can shoot him as well. I love Final Fantasy VIII, and the fact that it's on PC and that I'll be able to bring it wherever I go, I love that. Anyway, those are the games that I've been playing this week. Now on to my opinion. So the hot topic for this week is, of course, the VGX Awards, okay? We're going to go through all the nominees and the winners for all the categories that at least I care about. And we're going to talk about, do I think they deserve to win, or what's the deal, why are they here, kind of thing. And I'll be doing a lot of comparisons with this awards show and awards shows like the Golden Globes, the Oscars, and more importantly, the DICE Awards, okay? Personally, I look at the VGX Awards like I do the MTV Awards. They don't really mean that much. I think the more important award for video games, at least, are the DICE Awards. And they happen early next year. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a little bit of a mover and a shaker, is that award category. But there's also going to be like IGN's awards, Game Trailer Awards, GameSpot Awards. Polygon will probably have their awards as well. So where the Spike VGX Awards kind of fall into is, yeah, like the MTV Awards. Nothing was unpredictable with the winners or anything like that. But some are kind of funny and obvious. Some are very curious. Some are fantastic. But enough about that. Let's go into the big one, of course. The Game of the Year. The nominees for the Game of the Year were Bioshock Infinite, Grand Theft Auto 5, Super Mario 3D World, The Last of Us, and Tomb Raider. Now, I found it kind of funny that Tomb Raider and Super Mario 3D World were on the list. I know I've mentioned the Mario one before, mainly because I do follow a lot of critical reception for games, as well as their commercial success. And when you look at a game like Tomb Raider, you scratch your head going, okay, I think there were a few other games that were pretty highly critically praised as opposed to Tomb Raider. Even Square Enix came out and said, the Tomb Raider was a financial disaster, you know. But that's neither here nor there. I'm curious that it made the list above other games that I thought were more critically acclaimed. But then I realized that it's not just critical acclaim that gets you on this list. It's critical acclaim and commercial success. So whatever Square Enix says is beside the point. Financially, compared to other games that were highly criticized, in a positive way, Tomb Raider was much more successful. So they had the better balance of the two. And I believe that's what puts you on this Best Game of the Year list. And that's not necessarily a bad idea, okay? When you look at things like the Golden Globes, you see a bunch of categories for either drama or comedy best of 2013. And the movies that get on those lists are either with high-profile actors, buzzworthy movies, or financially successful movies, okay? Like, you'll have Avatar on there, which was both critically acclaimed and commercially unbelievably successful, okay? And then you'll get things like The Tourist with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie, which was commercially and critically a flop, but it got nominated before it was even in the theaters. Why? Because it's got Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp. That's why. So, thankfully, that's one good thing about the VGXs, is that they recognize the balance between the two, the financial success and the critical acclaim of a game. That's why a lot of people were confused, that I talked to, why Rayman Legends wasn't in the Game of the Year list, because it was a highly praised game on every single system. It beat out Tomb Raider for the most part. And A Link Between Worlds, that wasn't on there either. There's another game I'm forgetting, but anyway, there were a couple of handheld games that were not on the Game of the Year list, so people were a little baffled by that because they were so highly praised. But they didn't have the amount of commercial success as Tomb Raider. There we go, that's my little rant. So the winner, of course, was Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, personally, I, of course, didn't like Grand Theft Auto 5. I thought, if anything, The Last of Us or Bioshock Infinite should have taken the award. I'm glad to see Bioshock on the list because it was released way early in the year and it had the potential of being forgotten. Thankfully it wasn't, because it's an amazing game and it deserves recognition. But even though I didn't like Grand Theft Auto 5, I recognize a very good game, okay? It just wasn't the tone or the type of game I wanted to play. So as a video game, Of course, it's amazing what they did in a game, especially considering that it is on the ass end of last generation. That game will probably blow most of the first-year next-gen games out of the water, you know? And it was the biggest selling thing of ever. So, of course, you gotta at least recognize it. And, of course, when you have the two things, critical success and commercial success, in droves, it was just the obvious choice. The next one up was Studio of the Year, and the nominees for that were Irrational Games, Bioshock Infinite, Naughty Dog for The Last of Us, Rockstar North, Grand Theft Auto 5, and the Fulbright Company, who did Gone Home. That excited me. Just to see an indie developer on the list for Best Studio of the Year, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. And I couldn't be more over the moon to see that the award went to Naughty Dog for The Last of Us. That's perfect, you know, because there would be arguments that, you know, people enjoyed The Last of Us or The Last of Us deserved it more than Grand Theft Auto 5. I think I would be in that camp, and I think this is the good balance. You know, you recognize that the video game Grand Theft Auto 5 was superior to most things out there, and it is a technical achievement, and it had huge success. Meanwhile, you also recognize that there was a lot of creative input in this studio, Naughty Dog, so you give a little nod to two of the best companies that are working today. Perfect. The next up was the category for Best Shooter. And I'll dive into this category stuff a little bit in a second here. But the nominees for Best Shooter were Battlefield 4, Bioshock Infinite, Call of Duty Ghosts, and Metro Last Light. The winner was Bioshock Infinite. And that was kind of curious to me. I mean, I'm happy. You know, Bioshock Infinite won an award. Yes! But it's very strange that this video game that started off touting itself as a survival horror game is now winning the Best Shooter. Very odd how, you know, just the perception of the audience can be so swayed, you know? And true enough, you know, I don't look at Bioshock Infinite and think of survival horror, but I certainly don't consider it a first-person shooter. Well, it is a first-person shooter, but a shooter game in general. If anything, I would consider it an action-adventure game, but that's just me. Yeah, there's not much to say about that. But moving along for a quick second, we'll go to Best Action-Adventure Game. The nominees for this were Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Last of Us, and Tomb Raider. All amazing choices. Here, I'm kind of curious as to why The Last of Us was an action-adventure game, where I would consider that a survival horror game. Neither here nor there at this point. The winner of that category was Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. That's very strange to me. Again, just considering commercial success and overall critical success. And out of both of those, I think Assassin's Creed 4 was at the bottom. You know, it wasn't as financially successful as Tomb Raider, I think. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. It definitely wasn't as critically praised as Tomb Raider. And both The Last of Us and The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto 5 blew it out of the water. Whatever. Okay. I'll go with it. I think it's just one of those series that the VGX just felt like it needed to give a nod to them. Much like Super Mario 3D World is in the category for Game of the Year because they needed to give a nod to Nintendo for that. For some reason. Whatever. So that just baffles me. But now here we go on to Best RPG. Okay, I'm getting to a very serious point here. Best RPG, the nominees were Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, which shouldn't even be on the list because it was released a year or two ago. And this is just an HD upgrade to a video game that's been around for a very long time. So the fact that it's being nominated is pretty piss poor. The other nominations are Fire Emblem Awakening, Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, and Pokemon XY. The winner was Ni no Kuni. I can't say one thing or another about Ni no Kuni because I played maybe an hour or two of the game and it just didn't grab me yet, so I didn't really even get into the meat and potatoes of what makes an RPG. I was just getting through the basics of the intro up to the actual gameplay. So I plan to go back and check it out, then I can have an actual opinion on Ni no Kuni. But the fact that Level 5 and Studio Ghibli won something, I think that's great. So that's fantastic. Now, just to back up before I go on to the next category here, I want to talk about these categories in general. We've had Best Shooter, Best Action Adventure Game, and Best RPG. Now, there is no category for Best Strategy Game, Best iPhone Game, Best Survival Horror Game, Best Sci-Fi Adventure Game, Best Point-and-Click Adventure Game. There's so many gaming categories out there that each one of them should be getting their own nomination kind of category. The fact that they've selected just the basic action-adventure game, just the basic RPG and the shooter, as well as racing game and sports game, you are leaving out so many categories that it's just... If you're going to be selective, don't have them at all. You know, you should recognize all these different categories because a lot of people will be sitting back going, well, my favorite game of the year doesn't even have a category to be nominated in. You know, and if it did, it would win everything. So I have a little beef about that. Comparatively to the movie awards that are out there, you've got the Golden Globes that do recognize between drama and comedy, where the Academy Awards never do. And then you've got niche websites and award shows like the slasher film kind of stuff and the Sci-Fi Saturn Awards, and they recognize their certain camps. I think it's a little sad that you don't recognize every single category. And I mean, yeah, you could be all finicky and everything and narrow it down to every single category, but no, there are broad strokes that you can take. Video game stuff, like shooters, are not a broad stroke for every game, as evidenced with the nominees, okay? Action-adventure is clearly not a good broad stroke for the amount of games that are out there, and not every game can fit into the category. But enough about that. That's kind of a point I want to make about these nominations. So there are tons of games that just don't have the category to be nominated for recognition, which they so deservedly deserve. Wow. Moving along, the category for Best Independent Game. The nominations were Gone Home, Kentucky Route Zero, Papers, Please, and The Stanley Parable. This was more compelling than the Game of the Year nominations for me. I was really curious to see who would come out on top of this, because here, maybe commercial success plays a factor into it, but for the most part, I think it's just critical acclaim for these games, because there hasn't been a bad word said about any of these nominees. The winner was Gone Home, and I am over the moon for that. I would have been over the moon for the Stanley Parable as well, but I think Gone Home, that was just brilliant. There are certain issues as well that I have with this. Number one, Kentucky Route Zero is not finished yet, and I think it's a little weird to nominate a game that is incomplete. It's not saying that they don't deserve the nomination, I just think it's a little premature to nominate them now. Papers, Please, I've heard nothing but good things about it. The Stanley Parable, while it definitely deserves a nomination, it is a game that was released last year or 2 years ago. So this is like the final touches on a game that's already been out there. I have a little bit of an issue with that as well. So does it deserve to be nominated now? Yes and no. It's just a finicky little bone that I have to pick. It's like when there's a movie that came out not too long ago called Once. Brilliant, fantastic movie, amazing musical as well. And the music in it is heart-achingly beautiful. The fact of the matter that they won the Academy Award for Best Song in a movie that year, I have issue with, because the song was made, I think, a year before the movie was even created. So technically, that song wasn't made for that movie, which is the kind of rules for being nominated for that. Same thing with the Stanley Parable here, to kind of contrast it. I'm still glad it got nominated. I'm still glad that Gone Home 1 and everything, but it's finicky things. I'm a very finicky guy today. Moving right along. The nominations for Best Downloadable Content, or DLC as the cool kids call it, were Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, Dishonored, The Knife of Dunwall, Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, and Mass Effect 3, Citadel. Like I said, I've never played Borderlands yet. I plan to change that. Dishonored, I didn't like, so I don't care. Far Cry 3, I just bought it on Steam, and I bought Blood Dragon, but I haven't played it yet. I know it's a standalone kind of thing, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. My vote was in Mass Effect 3 Citadel, because I absolutely love all things Mass Effect, and Citadel was the biggest love letter a game company could have given to their fans. It was pitch perfect for me. The award went to Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. And I think that's great too, because everything I've heard about this DLC was that, number one, it is just all kinds of geeky goodness, and number two, it should have been nominated for Game of the Year. Because it is so over the top, ridiculously awesome. So, even though I'm sad that Citadel didn't win, I am convinced that Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon more than deserved this award. So that's great to see. And now comes the fun part, the individual console awards. The nominations for Best Xbox Game was Bioshock Infinite, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Grand Theft Auto 5, or Tomb Raider. Looking over that list, how many of those were actually Xbox games? 1. So who do you think won? Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Couldn't have been more obvious. Or deserved. Deserved? Or more deserved. They should have won. I played that game, I loved that game, and I am so happy that it won the award. But kind of obvious. And you'll see more obvious stuff when I talk about the best PlayStation game nominations. The nominees are Grand Theft Auto 5, Rayman Legends, The Last of Us, and Tomb Raider. Guess who won that? That's right, the only nominee that was a PlayStation exclusive, The Last of Us. Again, I'm so happy that it won, but Jesus. Can you not find... Well, maybe there weren't that many PlayStation exclusives. I know God of War Ascension was a PlayStation exclusive, but I wouldn't nominate it either. So, I just find those categories very, very funny. That I think it would have been even funnier if, especially for Xbox, if they went, and the nominees are Bioshock Infinite, Brothers, Grand Theft Auto 5, Tomb Raider, and the best Xbox game goes to Bioshock Infinite, a game that's on every other platform as well, because Xbox couldn't come up with a good enough exclusive. But thankfully, both of them, they did. Now, down to best Nintendo game. The nominations were Pikmin 3, Rayman Legends, Super Mario 3D World, and The Wonderful 101. Super Mario 3D World won. And I think that's kind of obvious because it's the only Nintendo game that was up for grabs for Game of the Year. It is the most highly praised Nintendo game that came out so far, so it does have the critical success. But when these nominations were announced, there was no backing for any kind of financial success. And the critical success wasn't even talked about before. So why this game was even on the nomination list is beyond me. But it won, it's Mario, it's Nintendo, whatever. I don't care that much. Maybe I'll care if I play the game, but that won't be for another decade or so. Next up, Best PC Game. This blows my mind. Best PC Game nominations were Battlefield 4, Gone Home, Papers, Please, or The Stanley Parable. So 3 little indie titles were up against the PC juggernaut that is Battlefield 4. The winner was Gone Home. Yes! Indies rule the world! I think that is great. Gone Home is such a brilliant game, and I've heard nothing but good things about Papers, Please, and The Stanley Parable is all kinds of crazy, awesome, cool. Battlefield has been plagued with numerous problems from what I've heard from my buddies who played on PC, PS3, PC, PS3, and PS4. But that's neither here nor there. It looks like it's a beautiful game, and once the problems are fixed, it will be an exceptional gameplay experience. But the fact that an indie game blew away a AAA developer on a very, very powerful system like the PC, that's just all kinds of greatness. I'm so happy for the Fulbright company. This is a great year for them. The nominations for Best Handheld Game were Animal Crossing New Leaf, Pokemon XY, Tearaway, and The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Now, A Link Between Worlds won, but I have a little bit of an issue with this this category as well. I believe that this handheld game category should include iPhone, because there are so many brilliant iPhone games that are coming out there, and they're not getting their due. Okay, iPhone is plagued with a lot of cheap money grab kind of games and little time suckers, which is the next category, Best Casual Game. But there are some really brilliant games that are created for that specific platform, and technically it is a handheld game. So I think they should start incorporating some iPhone games in there that deserve to be recognized. Tearaway, I've heard nothing but brilliant things from the boys that made Little Big Planet. Pokemon XY is a juggernaut in itself, as well as Animal Crossing. Link Between Worlds, I can't wait to play that. I look at that game and I go, maybe I should buy a 3DS. So if you've played that game and you can share some insight onto that game, please, anything to convince me to buy a 3DS. Best Casual Game nominations. Again, Animal Crossing New Leaf, Disney Infinity, Plants vs. Zombies 2, It's About Time, Skylanders Swap Force. The winner was Plants vs. Zombies 2. If anything, this is an indication that, yeah, more iPhone games should be included on this. iPhone or iPad or any kind of Android device, any of those games that should be praised, get them in these kind of categories, because they're going under the radar for most of the part. Most of the time. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. This is more the fun kind of categories for me. Best Voice Actor. The nominations were Troy Baker as Joel in The Last of Us, Troy Baker as Booker DeWitt in Bioshock Infinite, Stephen Ogg as Trevor Phillips in Grand Theft Auto 5, or Willem Dafoe as Nathan Dawkins in Beyond Two Souls. The winner was Troy Baker for his performance as Joel in The Last of Us. That award is just as obvious to me as Mark Hamill winning for the Joker in Batman Arkham City. And funny enough, Troy Baker did the voice for the Joker in Batman Arkham Origins. Yeah. As soon as I heard like the first few sentences come out of his mouth in The Last of Us, I knew this was just, he had to win the award. He was fantastic. And I couldn't be more happy for a guy to get more work out of this gig than him. He is the next Nolan North. You know what I mean? We're going to see so many games with Troy Baker in it. He was in Lego Marvel Superheroes. He was in Batman this year. He was Two-Face in Batman Arkham City. He's going to be starring in Infamous Second Son on PlayStation 4. It's just going to be a great year for Troy Baker, and we're the better for it because he is an amazing voice actor. I'm really all about voice actors. I just love that. Next up was Best Voice Actress. The nominations were Ashley Johnson as Ellie in The Last of Us, Courtney Draper as Elizabeth in Bioshock Infinite, Camilla Luddington as Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, or Ellen Page as Jodie Holmes in Beyond Two Souls. I have some things to bring up about this category, but the winner, very deservingly, was Ashley Johnson as Ellie in The Last of Us. The yin to the yang of The Last of Us and Troy Baker in that game. I think they played so well off each other that I don't think you would have had as good a performance if it wasn't for their chemistry together. Just all kinds of brilliant. That said, Courtney Draper as Elizabeth in Bioshock Infinite, she made Bioshock Infinite, in my opinion. I mean, if it wasn't for her and the way she conveyed everything in that game, you wouldn't have had as big of an emotional draw to that game if it wasn't for Courtney Draper. I can't speak much about Camilla Luddington. I didn't play much of Tomb Raider, and what I did, I wasn't too entertained. But Ellen Page as Jodie Holmes in Beyond Two Souls, I think very deservedly gets a nomination. But I think it should have been actress, because quite literally, she did all the motion capture, her likeness is in the game, and it's her voice as well. She is just acting. It's not just a voice thing. And that's becoming more used in video games. With The Last of Us, that's all motion capture stuff. Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain before it, the upcoming infamous Second Son. This is all motion capture stuff where the voice actors are actually doing all the actions as well. Uncharted, another good example. So I think we need to start looking into an actual best actor as well as voice actor in a video game. So that's all I need to say about that. Best soundtrack category. Nominations were Bioshock Infinite, Grand Theft Auto 5, Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, and The Last of Us. The winner was Grand Theft Auto 5. I have a beef with this. Much like Quentin Tarantino, he uses recordings more so than he uses original score material. And when I look at best soundtrack, that's what I think for video games. Best original score. And I think that needs to be recognized more than, hey, you came up with a good compilation for a playlist in the background of your video game. I don't like that as much as I want to recognize the amount of effort that all these composers put into their video games. Like Journey. Journey is one of the most amazing video game scores that has ever been created. And thankfully it got many other awards, as well as Best Soundtrack last year at the VGAs. Was it last year? I believe it was last year. Anyway, neither here nor there. And especially when you take a listen to Grand Theft Auto, if there is an original score for Grand Theft Auto, I really didn't hear it, because the whole time I was just changing stations on my radio. And that's 10 hours of gameplay. So if there was a soundtrack out there that was really compelling in Grand Theft Auto 5, it was obscured by the amount of songs that were on the radio all the time. Bioshock Infinite and The Last of Us, those are soundtracks that are so compelling that I listen to them almost on a daily basis, either at work or when I'm reading books. There are some very, very engrossing scores, especially within the video game world as well. So they complement the video game experience to a T. Ni no Kuni, from the little bits that I have heard, it sounds like it's an excellent soundtrack as well. Can't wait to get into that game so I can listen to the whole thing. So that's one where I don't think Grand Theft Auto 5 deserved. But that's just my opinion. Maybe you guys are like, oh my god, are you kidding me? The original soundtrack or the original score for Grand Theft Auto 5 is something brilliant. I didn't pay attention to it. Next up is Best Song in a Game. First up was ADHD by Kendrick Lamar for Grand Theft Auto 5. Sleepwalking by the Chain Gang of 1974 for Grand Theft Auto 5. See what I'm getting at? Survival by Eminem on Call of Duty Ghosts. I didn't know Eminem was still around. That's impressive. Okay. Or Will the Circle Be Unbroken by Courtney Draper and Troy Baker for Bioshock Infinite. The award went to Will the Circle Be Unbroken, which deservedly so for its inclusion in the game, but I'm a little confused. I can't recall if this version of it is original or if there was actually a song called Will the Circle Be Unbroken, if it was actually an old-timey church song, because they do have an alternate version of it on one of the soundtracks. And I don't know if that was an actual recording or if it was a song they composed for the game and they recorded it to sound like that. I'm not too sure. But if that's the fact of the matter, then I don't think you can actually nominate a game that was made like in the 1930s just because you included a new version of it in a current gen game. But that's neither here nor there. If that's not the case, then absolutely, totally deserved it. And then one of the vote-ins for video game categories, the most anticipated game of 2014. The nominations were South Park: The Stick of Truth, Destiny, Watch Dogs, Titanfall, or The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. The winner was Titanfall. Now, I can understand that, and I'm slightly confused about that as well. Mostly because every video game website that I look at, they all have a poll going, which is like, which video game are you most looking forward to in the upcoming next gen? And every time I look for a category that Titanfall is in, it's either second place by a wide margin or third place. The first place one is almost unanimously Destiny for some reason. I'm definitely looking forward to Destiny. I might buy Titanfall, but only on PC. I'm not going to do a console thing with that. That just looks weird. But the strange thing... Well, no, it's not strange. I mean, the obvious thing for Titanfall taking this one is you got to look at the core audience for a show like the VGX. You've got all your players that are just Call of Duty fanboys, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a term. And of course, Call of Duty fanboys want the next best thing, which is obviously Titanfall, because it's coming by the guys who made this whole Call of Duty extravaganza in the first place. So of course you want to check it out. So when you're appealing to that kind of viewer, of course that's the way it's going to go. But yeah, out of those 5, at this point I would almost say The Witcher 3. You know, especially after they showed the trailer for it. That looks amazingly compelling. Destiny, it's still high on my radar, but damn, that Witcher 3 looks good. And if I'm being totally honest, out of everything at the VGX, I'm looking to No Man's Sky as like the be-all end-all game for 2014 at this point. But yeah, so there are the winners, and there are the nominations. What do you guys think should have taken the trophy home? Or do you agree with all the choices that have been made? If there's a game that even wasn't nominated that you think should be recognized somehow, let me know in the comments section below. Tell me your thoughts, and I will be sure to respond to you guys as always. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings a close to this holiday special of Deep-Seeded Geek. Thank you very much for putting up with me and my fake fire. But a couple of announcements. First of which is, of course, this coming Sunday, December 29th, at 5 p.m. we're going to be doing the live Google Hangout of Deep-Seeded Geek. The topic is going to be innovations in video gaming, past, present, and future. And if you want to get in on that, just send me a message on YouTube here, or find me on Facebook. You can send me a message there. Leave a comment in the section below saying you want to be on the show, and I will get back to you and we'll get you involved. Other than that, you know what to do. Thank you very much for watching this episode. If you dig it, hit like, favorite, share with your friends and family on Facebook and the like. Subscribe as always, because we put out new videos every Wednesday, and I will see you guys next week on Deep-Seeded Geek. Take care.